Each year, over 20,000 Americans receive organ transplants that save or enhance their lives, but about 6,000 die while waiting for a transplant, according to the World Almanac and Book of Facts. There is a major shortage of available organs to transplant, which is why so many people die waiting for a transplant. You could simply save someone's life by registering to become an organ donor. If you decide to become an organ donor, you should carry a signed card with you stating that you are. You should also inform your family members in case it is brought up after you pass. During my speech, I'll explain the long history behind transplants, why people need them, and how it affects the people involved, as well as the future of transplants. Transplants date back centuries, and they include animal and human body parts being transplanted. A surgical transplant involves the removal of body parts, organs, or tissues from one person and implanting them into the body of another person, which is explained in an article titled Transplant Surgical, published in the Gale Encyclopedia of Science. A technique was developed for replacing noses lost in battle or to syphilis that included skin grafts in the 16th century. This resulted in the first successful transplant. By the 19th century, the rates of surgery had increased. Organ transplants, though, weren't successful until the 20th century. A technique was developed to reconnect the organ to the new body, but many were still rejected by the body due to the immune system. They then started using drugs and radiation to depress the immune system and avoid rejection. As a result, that decade saw the first bone marrow transplant, kidney transplant, and kidney pancreas transplant, according to the article titled Transplant Surgical. There are over 80,000 people on the transplant waiting list. There is a shortage of available organs that can be transplanted. The disparity between the demand for transplants and organ availability has been identified as a worldwide public concern. In Canada, in 2010, 16% of transplant candidates waiting for a kidney, pancreas, or both died. 19% of the people needing a lung transplant died, 22% that needed a liver transplant, and 24% that needed a heart transplant, according to the entry in Canadian Medical Association Journal. The most common reason for shortage is that people hesitate to donate organs because they don't know enough facts and hear too many myths. There are 3 types of organ donations: donations after brainstem death, donations after cardiac death, and live organ donation. The organs you can donate are heart, intestine, kidney, liver, lungs, and pancreas. Types of tissue can also be donated, such as bone, cartilage, cornea, fascia, and ligaments. If you register to be an organ donor, the quality of your medical care won't be affected. Organ donations also won't disfigure a body and won't be at cost of the donor's family. The amount of organs available for transplant isn't increasing enough, but the amount of people on the list that need transplants isn't intended to decrease. Therefore, research and surgeons are working to enhance the future in transplants. There are many advances that are being studied to help the neurological and nerve system disorders. Investigations are underway on a surgical treatment to transplant adrenal medullary tissue to hopefully permanently regenerate new cells in the brain. There are experiments being conducted for new sources of organs and tissues to be used for transplants. Artificial organs and tissues are under development but can only be used for a bridge between getting a new permanent transplant for now. There are also studies being done on xenografts, which are a transplant from another species. They haven't succeeded yet, but the lack of organ donors pushes them to continue to research and study. After explaining everything, I don't expect to eliminate all the deaths that occur in people who are waiting on the transplant list, but I do hope to help decrease the number significantly. Most people will not die in circumstances that allow them to donate their organs, according to an online article titled Organ Donation. Therefore, the more people who register means there will be more organs that will be evaluated to be transplanted. This gives over 100,000 people on the transplant list more hope to find an organ or tissue they need. The least we can do after we pass is give hope to others who are fighting to keep their lives or just maintain a life for a little longer. Don't forget that just one organ donation can save up to 8 lives, which is explained in an online article titled Pros and Cons of Organ Donation. Register today and help save someone's life in the future.